There's this amazing story in Acts chapter 4. And it's a story of these first followers, people like Peter and John, who are Jesus' disciples, his closest followers, and what happens after Jesus died and resurrected. And the story in Acts 4, I want you to read it. If you go to our devotional of powerful worship experiences, we have 40 days. We're here at day 25. You're getting towards the home stretch. And today's topic is sharing. How do we express, how do we talk to other people about who Jesus is, about what God has done in our life? And what I find fascinating about this story, and I hope you'll go to ccof.church/2021, or if you're wherever you're getting this podcast or YouTube, there's in the notes in the description is a link to that Devo, to those studies. And you're going to see activities. If you haven't done any of these, now that we're at day 25, start at day 1. And when you get back to day 25, you're going to love what you've seen God do in your life. And that's what we're going to talk about, because that's what John and Peter talk about. So in Acts chapter 4, they have this opportunity to do what they did previously, which for Peter is very obvious. Peter, when asked about his relationship to Jesus just a few weeks earlier, not very long in the past, Peter asked about being with Jesus, being a friend of Jesus, a followers of Jesus, denied Jesus 3 times, said, no way, I don't know him. I'm not even from that same part of the country, even though he was. I mean, it was so obvious to everyone. And 3 times he stood and denied who Jesus was and his association with him. We get to Acts chapter 4, and something has changed in Peter's mind and heart. And when not just asked by some random person in a courtyard, like he was the first time, but asked by the high priest, asked in a legal proceeding, which very well could have ended in his imprisonment, or even as he watched with Jesus, death. And the very people who had Jesus crucified put the pressure on Peter and John, and they didn't crack. They didn't say, no, we're sorry, we won't do that again. They said things like this. Acts chapter 4, verse 20, as for us, Peter and John speaking, we cannot help speaking about what we have seen and heard. When we talk about sharing, we talk about people being bold. I mean, this chapter is just filled with incredible boldness. Is it hard to talk about Jesus? If you were here on day 20, Elizabeth taught us a lesson and talked about being salty, sharing the things with our friends and our neighbors, or just people we interact with about Jesus, about God, that are interesting, creating thirst, using, just sprinkling it a little bit in our conversations. And I find this just fits so perfectly after understanding what Elizabeth taught us. So if you haven't seen that, go back. When you spend time with Jesus, what do you find interesting? What is it you can't help speaking about? And if you don't have anything to say, could it be that you're not spending time with him? Here's what I want you to do. Could you talk about sometime in the next few days what you've experienced through these 40 powerful worship experiences? 25 days in, you've been doing this for a month if you count the weekends. What's happened? I want you to get your journal. I want you to spend some time wherever you are, even right now. Just think for a few seconds. What's happened these last 4 weeks? What's God shown you? What have you learned? What have you experienced? Where have you had times of peace? Maybe something you learned that was new. Maybe something you tried like fasting and you just like, this was amazing, or it was awesome, or it was hard. Could you share that? Could you, like Peter and John, just simply share what you've seen and heard? Our boldness, our ability to share about Jesus, who is so intriguing, or as Elizabeth says, salty. He just is. And he's doing something salty. He's doing something intriguing in your life. He's creating a thirst for more of himself. And you're experiencing that here. What I want you to do this week is just make a list of all the things during this season that you've devoted to these powerful worship experiences. Just make a list of what God's done, where he showed up, what he said. And I want you to share that with a friend. Just have a conversation. If you want to practice, shoot it to me in an email. Tell me how you would say it to your friend. Let us know what he's doing, because when we can share from that heart, from that space, Jesus takes over and lives are changed. And people like Peter and John and their audience this day in Acts 4, they hear about God. They hear what Jesus is doing. And that's the best news they could ever hear.